Let's take a look at what we do with operations with functions. When we operate with functions, we just want to combine two or more functions using arithmetic operations. So we are given f of x equals 3x and g of x equals 5x plus 2. And we want to look at adding, subtracting, scalar, multiplying, and dividing. What do we do with these operations with our functions? So when adding two functions together, we just want to think of it as f of x plus g of x, for example. And that could also be written as f plus g in parentheses with x on the outside, and it would mean the same thing. And then let's write over here what that would look like. So f of x, remember they gave us is 3x. So we can write that out. And we're just adding that to g of x, which they've told us is 5x plus 2. So we're just going to add these two functions together. So that just means you combine like terms. So we have 3x plus 5x will give us 8x plus 2. And then typically we call this a new name because now this is a new function. So let's call this new function by a new name, h of x, just to give it a new unique identity. Subtracting would be very similar to adding. So we could write that as f of x minus g of x, for example. Or in a similar way, we could say that's the same thing as f minus g in parentheses with the x on the outside. Either way you write that, that means the same thing. And so then we could say f of x, which they gave us was 3x, minus g of x, which was 5x plus 2. So let's write a new function we'll call h of x is 3x minus g of x, which was 5x plus 2. And then just be careful because with subtracting, it's just not as forgiving as when we add things together. So 3x minus 5x is negative 2x. And then minus 2 is negative 2. And then we could just leave it like that. For the next part, it says scalar. That means when you have a number in the front of your function, which sometimes happens. So if we have like a out front of f of x or a out front of g of x, that means you want to multiply the whole function by that number or distribute that number. So for instance, if I was given 3 f of x, that would mean I have to multiply 3 times whatever f of x is, which in this case is 3x, and then that would give me 9x. But let's do another one. Let's say I have to say 4 g of x, or let's actually make that a negative 4. So negative 4 g of x means to take negative 4 and multiply it by the whole function of g of x, which is 5x plus 2. So let's put negative 4 times 5x plus 2. And then we just have to simplify that a little bit. So negative 4 times 5x is negative 20x, and negative 4 times 2 is negative 8. All right, multiplying. So let's look at the next part. Let's see. Multiplying is when you take f of x times g of x. So you're going to multiply the two together. That can also be written as f times g in parentheses with x on the outside, and that means the same thing. So multiplying two functions together would give us a new function, so let's call that h of x. So if h of x is asking us to take f of x and multiply it by g of x, that means we take 3x times 5x plus 2, and we multiply them together. So distribute the 3x, and we would get 15x squared plus 6x, and we could just leave it like that. And last but not least, we have dividing. So dividing is to take a function like f of x and divide by another function such as g of x. And once again, we could write it in parentheses like f divided by g of x. So we're going to create a new function called h of x, which is f of x divided by g of x, which in this case is 3x divided by 5x plus 2. But then there's no more we could do with these because there's no way to simplify that any further. So you would just leave it like that. All right, so that's it for operations with functions.